you got to be drinking the White House Kool-Aid and the Anderson Cooper Kool-Aid to think that that there was any chance that this guy would actually be captured and brought to justice, have his day in court. Did he really shoot anybody? Was he the one that did it? You know? I mean, we're supposed to believe these jokers. We're supposed to believe, you know, these people here who lie to us all the time. And you know, we're supposed to believe them. We're supposed to take what they say as fact. And we've seen some pretty disturbing things tonight. I'm going to start off here with the breaking news, because probably people want to hear what these jokers are going to say.
We're going to go right now to John Yang, who's our NBC correspondent at the Bureau in Los Angeles. John, we're going to wrap up our coverage of this and go to the State of the Union coverage at 9 o'clock Eastern, of course, which is still the big national story tonight. But this one certainly challenged it.
Yeah. So it's incredible how well it fits in. It really was incredible, because I'm here watching this on CNN. And just as they're getting ready to get to the State of the Union, it seemed like it was made for TV. The lead-in, the appetizer was the enraged cop, armed to the teeth, 30 rifles, big bear man. He's killing cops left, right, and center. He's dangerous. He's got lots of weapons. You know, that was the whole lead off, and then of course it went into the presidential State of the Union address. So this is how they work things. They have their boardroom meetings, and they schedule things, and well, let's let them go on.
This is a saga which you've been covering for all these days.
It is. It's been going on really for more than a week, but the public manhunt has been going on since last Thursday. We're now looking at the pictures earlier of the cabin where we believe Christopher Dorner was holed up burning. It is now essentially burned to the ground, and we can now see in rather dark pictures, we can see that some fire truck, at least one fire truck, is now moved in, and the smoke has turned white, suggesting that water is now being poured onto that fire. Today, one more sheriff's deputy died, one more law enforcement officer died in this pursuit of Christopher Dorner. Another one was shot several times, but we're being told by the law enforcement sources in San Bernardino County that he was not, none of the wounds were to vital areas. He is expected to survive. That same source is also telling NBC producers on the scene that there were two hostages held over the weekend in that first cabin where Dorner was holed up. That he did have them over the weekend. He was hiding in that cabin, remarkably enough, virtually directly across the street from the command post. And was in there over the weekend with these two hostages. Today, left somehow.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Right across the street from the command post. You gotta be shitting me. You gotta be. I haven't seen this before, but my God. Don't forget, it was right next to Sandy Hook, Newton, where they were doing a drill, and they had the school shooting drill. Just like in 9/11, where FEMA just happened to be there the day before. And just like on 7/7, where they just happened to be doing a bombing exercise in London, right when somebody planted a bomb. You know, if you still believe these things are coincidences, you're just fucking stupid. You know, I'm sorry. Break it to you. I mean, it's not too late for you. You can wake up now, but you know, you're just thick. You know, you're not paying attention. You're drinking the mainstream Kool-Aid. You are not getting your news from reliable sources, and you're not questioning things. We need to question all these things. This is just silly. I mean, he was right across the street. It sounds pretty convenient, doesn't it? Sounds like you know, you gotta. Here's the command post, and why put it halfway across the town? Let's put it right across the street. That way we can really keep an eye on it and set it up nicely. And you know, put some gasoline in there, maybe a couple explosions, some lighter fluid, I don't know, you know, make it look kosher. You know, they're gonna tell us that this guy was in there. They're gonna tell us, and they're gonna have these witnesses that are gonna come forth, hopefully, and we're gonna see what they have to say. And then every single person who worked really hard to expose the Sandy Hook, if they're not absolutely exhausted with all the work, myself being one of the people that really dug into that Sandy Hook thing to try to expose it, to try to alert Americans about what's going on, about how they are coming for your guns, and they are not going to take no for an answer. And I think by the end of this video, you'll get an even much stronger idea of how serious they are coming for your guns. This is just perfect. It's a perfect lead up. It's a perfect. Another cop is dead. 2 people were held hostage. You know, it's just, and it's all wrapped up just before the president steps up to give his nice little speech, right? This is how they do things. Just look at how they do things. As I said, look at Sandy Hook, look at 9/11, look at 7/7, look at how they do these things, look at how they carry them out. It's always, it's almost also transparent. But that's only if you actually step outside the, you know, control that they have you in. That means that you actually don't buy the mainstream media. Well, let's listen to these jokers go on and tell their little tale.
And then we're now being told it emerged from the woods, from the forest, and hijacked another car. And then that car was spotted by police. He emerged, traded gunshots with officers, some wardens from the California Fish and Wildlife Division, and then ran to this cabin where he was holed up, exchanged more gunfire with law enforcement. Somehow a fire began, and now that cabin has burned to the ground, and they have now moved in. They said they would not move in until it was safe, but now apparently they have moved in to start to put that fire out.
Yeah, so they're not going to move in until the whole thing's burned to the fucking ground, until the corpse is just a pile of bones or whatever, right? I mean, it's all too convenient, isn't it, folks? I mean, I'm sure you're getting the idea now that they don't really give a fuck how transparent it is, because the 80 or 85% of people who are incapable of critical thought cannot stand there, look at the news, or sit there while they're drinking their beverage, which is messing up their brain patterns, and be able to diagnose what is really going on. They can't critically look at these things.
Details we don't know, but that's where we stand right now, Chris.
How much of the story involving perhaps the purchase of scuba equipment and perhaps a plan to escape south of the border has been verified? John?
Well, we do know there was an affidavit filed by U.S. Marshal Service in support of the charges yesterday, and it did say that some of his belongings, including an ID, were found near the San Isidro border crossing south of San Diego. And there's also been a report that on, I believe it was Thursday, or at some point last week, that a man who fit Dorner's description tried to steal a boat and told the captain of the boat, you can get it back in Mexico because that's where I'm headed. But then the bow line of that boat became wrapped up in the propeller and disabled the boat. So it does look like that perhaps he did try to make it south before heading to Big Bear Lake.
That's right. So he was what? He was purchasing scuba gear? I mean, how stupid does this get? You know? They found his ID and some of his belongings right on a border town? So how did they get there? He mailed them there? The stork brought them? I mean, what the fuck? Right? Oh, Corey, well, it's the same people that brought you the news of finding one of the alleged box cutter terrorists who created the greatest attack in American soil in the history of America, right? That they found his passport. Yeah, it was perfect. I mean, he only blew up in a plane, but his passport was perfect. It was 4 blocks away from the World Trade Center. It was just there. It looked great. I mean, he probably could have used it again if he had not been vaporized, right? But this is how they do it. And then they say, see what he was doing? He was trying to do this, and then he's trying to take a boat, but he doesn't know how to use a boat, right? So he got the bow line all tied up in it. I mean, it's utterly absurd. It's so stupid. So what? He didn't try to steal another boat? He just fucking fled up in the Big Bear? Yeah, whatever. As I said, I believe this guy was on ice from day one. You can go back and see my first podcast on this. I predicted a lot of this stuff. I didn't predict that he would be killed today, but I predicted earlier that he would be killed before the president got up to speak. Or so they would say, right? It's all too predictable now. I'm sure there's I'm sure most of you probably listening are like, yeah, we saw it too, you know? Absolutely. I mean, if you've just got a little bit of understanding of how the media is playing people, how the media is in cahoots completely with this shadow government to completely destroy all our rights and freedoms, then you know that it's all predictable. These things happen. There was no way that Christopher, and I almost said a droner. You know, a lot of people have pointed that out too, of course, that Dorner, drone, you know, this is how they do things. Big bear, big black man. You know, we talked about monarch programming before. These are the catchwords that jump into people's minds. You know, that, and that's stuff that they've studied. You know, stuff that the Nazis learned and passed on to the Americans. Of course, they were hired and brought over after the war and used by the CIA to develop all this mind control and understand. I mean, the greatest form of mind control in the history of the world is television. If you haven't figured that out yet, then there's no hope for you. Right, so let's go on with this stupidness.
It's so interesting covering that part of the country as you do, John, and the way that people's instincts are trained, perhaps by seeing films. And you think about O.J. and when they found him, when he was after the Bronco chase, they found him in the possession of disguised material and a passport and evidence, at least circumstantial, that he may have been headed for the border. It's so much a part of that story of Southern California, the border being there as a place of refuge. It didn't work for this fellow, apparently. And again, I go back to this, the land of dreams, Los Angeles, where all the movies are made we grew up with. And the strange way in which life imitates art. I talked of High Sierra, where Bogart hid in the hills and was killed, and with Ida Lupino. And I think of White Heat, as I mentioned, James Cagney going up in flames at the end, yelling, "Top of the world, Ma." This strange connection between the mind that becomes criminal and the love of media attention. Wow. And the way that this person, apparently, was seeking out media attention.
Yeah. You know, is there any bigger hypocrite than this piece of shit that's telling you that? You know, oh, it's so sick the way they want a media attention. Here's a media whore, a prostitute. I mean, there's no bigger whores than these people, right? And it's all like a Hollywood movie. Well, isn't it? Isn't it? Really? Really? Brought to you by MSNBC, brought to you by CNN, brought to you by ABC, CBS, you know, you name it. It is a Hollywood movie. That's the whole thing. It is a Hollywood movie, and I guarantee you they'll make a movie about this if we're still around and there's still movie theaters, right? This is how they do things. This is how they convince you of the boogeyman. And the boogeyman here is the same boogeyman that Adam Lanza was. It's the same boogeyman that you've seen in Aurora and all these other shootings. Each one of them, which is at the very least highly suspicious to completely unbelievable, you know, when we're talking Sandy Hook and Aurora, right? And this one, I mean, this is how they do it. It is like a movie. They want you to tune in. They want you every single fucking day to be watching the news, to be drinking